Okay, well,
Okay.
it's wonderful to have you here and to share our experience with Michael. And thank you, Michael, for your patience listening to all of that. But I really kind
No
of
problem.
decided to put it together that way. And
Well, yeah, Maya, it didn't need patience. It just needed receptivity to the beauty and power of what you were sharing.
oh, thank you.
And as beautiful as the visual presentation was, I found that I needed to close my eyes just to really
Oh, certainly.
receive
Mm-hmm.
and really tune into what you were sharing, which unifies and casts this beautiful light on so much of, what I feel all of us here have worked to, in our own roles and our own humble ways to help facilitate in this kind of stupendous timeline, that you were sharing with us. And I feel so honored to be here in this gathering. And, especially after hearing your words, to see this amazing context for us all of the work that we've come here to do as best we can. The beautiful image that you created of the Priory of the White Stone for bringing your work into the Templar order in its renewed manifestation, that as I began to understand this infusion of Grail energy and codes into the red path, right? This is really bringing into clarity and focus for me so much of what I have, sensed and groped my way towards in the time of my working closely with our Grand Master, Prince Matthew of Thebes, on the restoration of the order. Just to share a little bit of my own background in my family. I come from a large Irish Catholic family, 10 children, from Oak Park, Illinois. My father was a holistic pediatrician back when there really was no such thing. And my mother, this is Paul and Catherine Dunn, my dearly beloved parents who both passed away last year. They were partners, missionary partners in their dharma of healing as holistic practitioners and working with brain injured and learning disability kids. And so I grew up with this sense of life as a mission of healing love, and that we were all expected and encouraged to find whatever path it was of love and service in the world. And there was always this thread of mysticism too running through for me. I went to Catholic school, and the old devotional practices of 40 hours devotion, where there would be a priest and altar boy in front of the exposed host in the monstrance for 40 straight hours, those moved me very much. And I had, from my childhood, a draw to and devotion to the Divine Mother. And through the course of my theater career, there was always this yearning and knowing that I needed to deeply immerse myself at some point in a path of meditation, which when I found the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda, who's my guru, that was the door for me. And I withdrew from my theater career. And, being an actor, it takes a certain amount of discipline in some areas, and the discipline of daily meditation was very tough for me in the beginning. And I recognized I need an environment. I need a supportive environment if I'm really going to answer this unignorable soul demand of divine communion. So I became a vegetarian cook in the monastery. That's the best way. I wasn't a monk. I was a married man. My wife was, in Chicago. I was in LA. And so that immersion in the work and teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda was a beautiful, amazing time for which I'm so grateful, because I got to witness over the next 22 years what actually goes into, from a high guidance level, the restoration and bringing forth into the world of a hugely important transformative work in the plan of the divine. Over those years, I served in everything from chopping onions, sweeping floors, cleaning bathrooms, to coordinating events and working with the direct disciples of Yogananda who were surviving, preparing financial reports for the temple, leading meditations. At one point, I was asked to learn the harmonium and lead kirtan, which became my greatest joy for many years. And I really never, all this time, I thought, well, I was finding my way and thinking, probably being prepared for something with all this, but the privilege of service was enough. And so if it ends up all coming together, I never thought that it would come together in this way, with this, profound import that all of us in our roles are playing here. And so to hear your description just now of the ancient origins of the Templars, and I've read some of this material on your website, but to hear it described in this story here today really brings it home both to my heart and mind in a very powerful way. The excuse me, just have a drink for a moment. The White Stone Priory as this infusion of high level vibration and guidance and grace into this red path restoration. As you said to me the other day, well, the red path, that's like we're coming out of those ages, and it's laying out this path saying, see, this is real because we got the papers to prove it and we did the work, and here's the legitimacy, and here's the lineage of King Folk of Jerusalem, and which had to be done. That legitimacy in the world, on the ground, doing third dimensional missions of human rights, fighting the bad guys. That's a big part of Templar sacred activism. And yet all the while, as we were developing that, and the beautiful gathering up of all the threads of Templar heritage, archaeological, ecclesiastical, esoteric, mystical, alchemical, canonical, etc., all of those that through the amazing work of Prince Matthew, the Grand Master, as all of that was being gathered, and we were, fighting some significant battles with people who did not want to see us succeed. During all that time, I was acutely aware, okay, at some point, the infusion of grace into this red path structure we've been building. I didn't have that vocabulary at the time, but, gathering in, calling in the Divine Feminine, calling in the Magdalene, calling in Isis, calling in, just doing our best to create the channel and stay grounded in our own inner balance. It was very tough, but as the months and years went by, Spirit began to flow in. And recently, in the last few months, and especially these last few weeks and days, it's now this flood tide. And on the night of the supermoon, on I think it was November 14th, when we had the Templar ceremony in Malibu at this amazing place created by this marvelous man, Lee McCluskey, in his home, which he just happens to say, oh yes, you can have your library, my library can serve for this high ceremony of yours. Oh, by the way, I call it Thoth's Library. I hope that works for you. He said, yeah, that'll do. We'll have this ceremony in Thoth's Library. That's fine. That when you shared with me that you'd had this gathering experience of, being enveloped in what you called Thothic energy for a month, and that it crystallized in your realization that you wanted to bring your work into the Templar order, that felt like a very powerful sign to me. We haven't known each other long, but I already felt very strongly that this was this infusion, that began with Bill and Edie and the foundation of the Priory of the Ark of Ascension here in Crestone. And Bill has really helped lay the groundwork for decades for this to be possible. And so I just welcome it so gladly. And what you described just now, you know, the Johannine element coming back into on-the-ground manifestation in the world now. Oh, by the way, just one little note, in the dates that you mentioned in your sharing there, the Vatican actually approved, gave Vatican approval to the order in 1129 AD, not 1229. Just a little note on that.
Okay.
Yeah. That this just really crystallizes and brings into clear focus for me this moment where, with sharing with your Sholar and looking at the priorities that are now coming in being, and that are, you know, for example, when Raven shared with me her interest, and we had an interesting opening to a conversation, that this is the time now. And I just want to share with you all a little bit about, okay, what does this mean to be a priory in the Templar order? Now, back in the day, you know, there were commanderies and there were priories, and there were grand priories. A priory, just as it means in the dictionary, is an autonomous spiritual community. A prior or a prioress is the spiritual director of an autonomous spiritual community. Of course, the Templars were warrior monks, so there were commanderies which had more of a military function. But all Templars had both what we might call preceptories, Templar teaching. And at the same time, there's this day job through the Crusades, and the inner hidden, true, higher Templar work, which of course is not as much in the historical record. And because, as you can see on the website, we were so adamant about grounding the restoration in the historical record as best we could receive it and discover it, to then say, all right, now we will bring in, welcome, honor, and authenticate the inner hidden Templar stream. And when Bill and myself, we had a conversation with Prince Matthew, grappling with, all right, in the new Templar stream, what is a priory? How do we ground it? And, you know, Prince Matthew he's a remarkable man of abilities that are off the charts on multiple levels, a willpower and discipline and focus that are superhuman. And at the same time, he's actually an extremely high functioning Asperger's autistic with like supercomputer mental capability of processing information. And yet he has, you know, a marvelously present affect and sense of humor, and a dear friend, an amazing man. And his question was, all right, I welcome the obvious spiritual depth of Reverend Bueller's work. I need to ground it in Templar history. I need to ground it in, you know, doctrine and heritage and teachings. How can we do that? When we came to sacred activism and fleshing that out and providing, as you can see on the website under the spirituality tab, we have several different pages on sacred activism. And it was those bringing forth of sources in universal spirituality, in Buddhism, in Hinduism, Zen Buddhism, and as well as Christian and Jewish sources, that goes further back, you know, pre-Christian, even pre-Egyptian, to Atlantis, you know, to India, to Atlantis. That's where we said, all right, now we have a grounding and a foundation that we can put forward in public as the justification, if you will, from his point of view, for priories on this higher level. And the way I see it right now And we've had some really good times about different kinds of priories. We're very boots on the ground with sacred activism. And then there's the high, energetic, white stone stream infusion of Grail consciousness in light group work. And we've come to recognize in this wonderful conversation we had yesterday that these priories constitute the second rider on the Templar horse. Yeah. As you called it, Maya, the hidden rider. Once secret back in the day, no longer secret, but simply hidden. Mm-hmm. We're not going to put it on page 1 of the website. If you become a Templar and you are drawn as a soul, this is your Dharma. Here are the priories of high light work, of aligning with then they're going to be the more what we might call conventional priories of other Templar organizations whom we honor and recognize, other Magdalene organizations, especially sacred activism, human rights priories. And yet there is this special second rider, Grail infusion group of priories that I will ask Prince Matthew. The name came to me that we can very rightly honor Saint Bernard de Clairvaux by referring to this as the Grand Priory of Saint Bernard de Clairvaux, which contains within it this high original Templar light work mission. Mm-hmm. At the same time, in this time of such confusion and anxiety in the wake of the election, the Code of Chivalry, human rights, what's happening at Standing Rock, these are on the ground areas where we as Templars must raise our flag, must hold up the Code of Chivalry, must share without getting into politics or personalities, to uphold visibly in the world these values, and to be willing to hold up the sword of justice. A lot of our work has gone into creating a licensed, enforceable International Court of Human Rights. We've had extensive interactions at the United Nations over the last 8 months, raising the profile of our institutions. The IGO, Intergovernmental Organization of Ignita Veritas University, was positioned to undertake a major project to help the refugees. And part of that included the ancient Catholic Church, which the Templar Order helped to restore. This goes back to the original, to me, this is like the Johannine element that got sort of tucked in and hidden in the Templar Order, vested very carefully by Saint Bernard de Clairvaux and other leading Templars from the beginning of the Holy See of Antioch, which, as you described, this is the inner Johannine element. And then there's the Petrine out there over in Rome, the outreach to the faith, active faith in the world. But the Johannine element, we believe that perhaps has been restored in the ancient Catholic Church, which was very carefully canonically restored. It's a unifying umbrella, unifying the old Catholic movement, the liberal Catholic movement. We've had, conversations with a representative of the Vatican, and we have done our best to clearly delineate, this is original Christian Gnosticism. This is direct divine communion. This is not salvation by assent to a formula. This is not centralized, sacramental salvation. This is gnosis. This is the divine feminine. This is honoring the Magdalene. This is the alchemy within us of balance between divine feminine and masculine. And it's a brilliant balance. At some point, for those of you who are interested, I can share with you the Handbook of Canon Law, which Prince Matthew authored, which balances the heritage of the Vatican for 2,000 years. They had their job. They had their red path job, and highly compromised and besmirched with horrible offenses and massacres. The Cathar story haunts a lot of us. and yet, they still have their role and contribution. And with Pope Francis in place, who knows what can happen. So just to bring this back into focus, what I want to share and offer to the Sholar today, as we clarify this Bernard de Clairvaux wing, a grand priory of high light work priories, the specific benefits and ways of serving your work, your lineages, your communities, your own nightly quest or Magdalene quest, continuity to take the work that you are dedicating your lives to under the umbrella of the restored Templar order, to give it continuity so that it is there for the coming centuries. Then there are legal and ecclesiastical advantages in terms of, particularly once the ancient Catholic Church is fully restored in the same very meticulous way we did with the Templar order, the ability to offer documented apostolic succession lines. Now, the paperwork of apostolic succession, is paperwork. It's not the stream of grace. It's not, the laying on of hands back through one devotee to another through the centuries. And yet, it's the red path. It's like, here, see, we got it. See, this guy went to this guy, and this went to this guy, and this is back 6 centuries, and this is 8 centuries. Here's the Templar line. Here's the Melchizedek line. By the way, the Melchizedek line, highly prized by the Vatican. They know all this stuff very, very well. They know the Celtic lines, the Druidic lines, the Templar lines, the Magdalene lines of succession. You don't hear it talked about, but each bishop knows his lines, and they're highly prized. And fine, you get to show your paperwork and say, I've got better lines than you do, fine. But we're about the spirit, and we want to balance it. We want to have that red path paperwork heritage, and so that we can bring in the infusion of Grail grace. So there's that aspect of it. And I want to emphasize that is still being meticulously restored. The last 200 years of the development of the old Catholic movement, the liberal Catholic movement, has left those lines in something of a muddle. As Prince Matthew said to me the other day, he said, well, it would take a bunch of Catholic universities a couple of generations to untangle it. And they haven't done it. So they left it to the Templars and, give me a couple of months in the desert. He lives, on the edge of the desert on the west bank of the Nile in Luxor, Egypt. And he's basically, working 18-hour shifts on this precious work. So we hope to be able to offer that. That will have real 3D benefits, as well as the knowledge that we have connected to our heritage in that way. And then it's up to us to live the grace, to, do our best as fallible human beings to live out our Dharma in as high an alignment with that grace as we can. Also, we have in place in the Templar Constitution the ability to protect whistleblowers, to protect human rights activists. This has been very carefully laid out according to international law. Our affiliation with the Sovereign Court of International Justice, which is a licensed court of international justice, fully enforceable under international law. It's in launch phase, but that too, for certain people with the right qualities, we can offer diplomatic status and protection doing that work. Wonderful. So that's another practical level of advantage. But to me, the core of it is what Bill refers to as the dipole, right? The alignment with inner plane's guidance, with Thoth's guidance, so that the outpicturing on the ground can be rightly guided, so that all of us, unfolding our missions and work can really be in attunement with the Johannine stream as it, in this amazing ascension time as it manifests on the ground. So that kind of brings it to the best clarity I can share with you at this time, and I really welcome any questions that have come up for you. And again, thank you from my heart for allowing me to be here with you today.
So wonderful, Michael. Beautifully expressed, deeply moving for me, and I'm sure everyone present. And I'm going to open it for all of you to ask or talk first, but I wanted to ask one question because I'm liable to forget it if I don't ask it right up front. And that is, when I was talking to Bill and Edie about what I had received of the priory, and then I felt, Unjung coming, since I'm, things are going to be happening with that. I'm not going to state on this broadcast. But I also, felt that Unjung was going to be holding that position here while things occurred for me. And so I asked Bill and Edie, well, what could that be called? Because at this point in time, this could certainly change for Unjung, and I almost expect it to. It doesn't have like an official, whole thing. She's doing incredible work, but she's doing it really, she and her husband, and then sometimes they take groups. So I thought, well, maybe it should be called a commandery. See, I don't know these terms well, but now I'm thinking, well, did I misterm it?
A commandery, the way we're looking at it now, would tend to be an on-the-ground sacred activism, whether it's human rights or some other area, because that's more about, 3D sacred activism, mission, performance. And yet, it's a new age, it's a new day, and as long as we're not going too far afield from our heritage, it can be named, in a way that feels right to us. Mm-hmm. Certainly, if it feels right to call it a commandery, we can do so. There were also preceptories, and yet this would be something that I'd love to have. I'm sorry, I want to pronounce your name. Unjun. So nice to meet you, Unjun. Mm-hmm. To have Unjun and yourself and Prince Matthew, get on Skype sometime and look at, at what feels right. But I think I have no worries about, the nomenclature is important, and yet it's just nomenclature.
Right.
We'll find something that.
She might even qualify for priory. See, I just don't know. So that's why I was working with words, trying to figure out what that's about.
Yeah, but I understand that, for you, that rainbow bridge between Kauai and Crestone, established by the Priory of the White Stone being founded in Kauai, and for Unjun to be then remaining there to hold that space as you, God willing, return to Crestone. Since that is so clearly a reality that's being guided, we'll find the right names.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Well, you and Unjung can, of course, communicate too. I gave you her email address, and if you can, of course, you would wish to include me in that. That's wonderful. But whatever happens, it's fine with me.
Okay.
Well, so I'm through with my questions now. Everyone, please, whatever you'd like to ask Michael or just comment on. That's just the time. Yes, Rex, Bart. Sorry.
Hey, Michael, first of all, it's a great honor and it's a big pleasure to hear you talk. I think you kind of triggered everything that could be triggered in me on a soul level, on a deep soul level, with everything you said. Also, your background is very appealing, and there's lots of connections that I can make for my own life over here, and the interests that you mentioned. I think
it's very, very good to meet you.
Yeah,
well, a lot of wonderful things about you.
And just to mention it, I've never seen Bill so happy. He's smiling all the time. He's smiling all the time, man. It's so
wow.
So you have a very good effect on people. I can see that, Michael. And I'm really, really glad. I mean, I'm speaking to you from the heart that it's really good to see someone at that position of impact in the world with such a great legacy that you're representing, that you've been fighting to bring back into the world. And of course, there's a lot of questions still that I would like to ask you personally in an email or something like that. But in any case, I would like to say it's an amazing work that you're doing. It's quite extraordinary. And these are really exciting times for all of us. And I just wanted to add one more thing. When you were doing the Templar ceremony and talking to the person that was offering you Todd's library, where was it, on November 14, the night of the supermoon, you said?
Right.
I was anchoring a galactic cross at the temple in Belgium, a new temple that is being built, and I was asked by the owner, who is also quite a special guy that I want to talk to you about a little bit more in a separate email. I don't want to be taking too much time here, but I was anchoring the galactic cross that is also representing the Ichthus Dominus, right? So the circle with the 8 spokes, and I found that very interesting, that there is so much synchronism going on, and for all the Shoal here present, I mean, we're all doing our own thing, but it's an amazing gathering, and I'm really honored and thrilled to meet you in person and to hear you talk. You have a very, very deep sense of integrity, which I really, really appreciate, and I'd like to know more about you and see how we can work together somehow. That's it for me.
Thanks, Bob.
I second that. I
would
second
welcome
that,
that so much. Yeah, that synchronicity of the supermoon night, there was a lot of tie-ins and amazing patterns of grace going on that night. It was, by the way, I am going to be editing together. We had a 2-camera video shoot going on during the ceremony. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with everybody. Hopefully in a week or two, we'll have a nice, maybe 5 to 10 minute video that has the highlights of that.
Great,
thanks.
Really. And so I presume then it's okay if I pass Bart your email?
Oh, please, yeah, share it with everyone. Yeah.
You two are, in my opinion, you two are real soul brothers, so I really would like to do that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, when Maya was introducing you, Michael, I mean, all the interest in the path that you've taken, I mean, it's, wow. I mean, it's amazing. You know, all the triggers that were going off inside of me, it's really, truly wonderful to see that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's, you know, how we all follow our own paths and we're not necessarily noticing all the things that we're being prepared for and trained for along the way, until one day suddenly Spirit hands you something and says, here, you're supposed to do this. And you say, oh, yeah, I know. Well, I can do that. Yeah, okay. I love that part. Well, okay. You know, and suddenly they go, oh, they've been preparing me for something. So it's, yeah, it's, you know, that moment in life that a lot of us come to, and suddenly a lot of very mysterious and sometimes anxiety-provoking things make sense and are gifts. So I really look forward to getting to know you, and I've heard some, you know, really, I can feel that resonance waiting to unfold. So yeah, that'll be great.
Hello, Allison. Welcome. I'm so glad you could make it, sweetie.
Me
Allison.
too. Hi. I know. I didn't want to miss it at all. Just to give a heads up, my phone isn't holding a charge, so if I disappear, it's because my phone died.
Right.
And I have to head to the airport in about 25 minutes. But
Okay, but it
I'm going to catch.
Okay.
I wouldn't miss this for the world. I'd have them stop the plane if I could.
Okay, wonderful. Well, and of course, it'll be recorded, so you
Yeah.
see it as well. So anyone else would like to open their heart to Michael right now and say what they want to say or ask or anything? Don't be shy. Yes, Donna.
Hello, Donna.
She's
Right.
here. Michael.
She needs to
Sorry,
there we
sorry,
go.
I'm having trouble unmuting my sound.
Hi,
I'm from
Donna.
Australia, and my heart's pounding. But about 10 years ago, I had a dream of you, Michael. And I think that I actually would like to start a priory here in Australia too. Just very emotional. So if I can talk to I think I might go through Maya and have a reading with those. But I do have some land picked out that I'm dreaming into creation. And you being an ex-Hollywood-er, I was told like 6 months ago that now go fix Hollywood. I just woke up in the middle of the night after having this beautiful dream about healing people, and my big thing is healing people's emotions, healing the past, feeding people positive thoughts. And I sort of had a miraculous thing happen to me last year, or this year. Actually last year, sorry. I healed cancer in 3 weeks.
Her cancer.
Naturally.
Wow.
I had cancer in my thyroid, my breast, my liver, my ovaries, and my lymph system.
Wow.
And I've had cancer before, and I also healed that naturally too with cannabis oil the first time. The second time I had no fear. I just had no fear. I don't know what came over me. It's just incredible. And for 3 weeks, I just got right in, and I tried to get to the heart of the emotions and feeding myself my own medicine emotionally. And that's what, I don't know whether that would be a part of your doctrine, but that is what I would like to basically base my priory on. And teaching people how to heal themselves with the thoughts that they feed themselves, because it doesn't matter what physical medicine we take. And that's why you touched me so when you said that your mum and dad sort of with the same thing.
Very much. Yeah, Donna, that is actually very much a part of who we are and the work that's unfolding. There's a wonderful couple, Ivor Francis and Diane Cantwell, who are respectively the Grand Chaplain of the Order and the Grand Preceptor, who are spiritual healers. Their work is thought form healing. And when I share the video, once we're done editing it, of the supermoon ceremony, they presided in that ceremony, which was an actual elevation to knight and dame status of some of our Templars in Los Angeles. And their work is, we're in the sacred activism training, in preparing to become a Templar. There are certain things that we will ask people to study, to learn, and to experience in their own unfoldment, to not to, qualify, okay, now you're worthy to be a Templar, but in order to really do this work, we have to move through our own emotional blocks, our own, these thought forms that linger in our auric fields, wounds that we carry from other lifetimes, from this lifetime. When I first started to work with Ivor and Diane several years ago, At the same time that I began to work closely with Prince Matthew, they suddenly had this flood of clients who had Templar past lives, Templar thought forms remaining in their auric fields, which were, now had become hindrances to their joy and health in this life. And as they, with angelic assistance, cleared out these thought forms, amazing healings took place, both physical, psychological, mental, and it's become integral to our understanding of how we need to qualify ourselves in a way for this work. It does not have to be through their modality. This isn't, we have other healing modalities that are coming to the table through all of you, through, like, for example, the Priory of Sacred Evolution with Rob and Ray's Williams here in Crestone, who, for 25 years have done the beautiful work of Psych K to clear subconscious blockages, and with a specifically spiritual assistance. So this very exciting moment that we're in, over these next few weeks, a series of gatherings that have been adroitly arranged for actual in-person discussions with Bill and Edie, with Robin Rays, with Ivor and Diane, who live down near Albuquerque, to really bring in the guidance to put in place the spiritual healing that we will both offer to others and that we need to go through ourselves. This is all, how do I say it? Part of the reason I'm so honored to be sharing with all of you is that I know this is, for lack of a better word, an elite gathering of deeply committed souls who have been pursuing their own Templar missions for years or decades. And it is very important to us that in coming into the Templar family with these soul reunions, that we are respecting your autonomy, your sovereignty, your lineage, your unique voices, your unique skills and contributions. And over the next few weeks, we hope to really clarify what we feel are the standards that we are asking of ourselves in terms of our own emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, our grounding in divine communion, such that we can undertake this work truly in a spirit of non nobis domine, right? Not unto us, O Lord, not getting our own agendas. And, it happens, it's gonna happen, we're just human beings. But if we're holding ourselves to these standards and we're continually availing ourselves of the opportunity for this healing grace that's flowing through multiple sources from our Templar family, then there will be such a need and welcome for a priory in Australia of the kind of healing that you are being guided to bring. So I know that's a lot to cover in one answer, but I hope that sheds some light on that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Hi, Michael.
Hello, Kat. How you doing?
We tried to connect last week, but
yeah, it's been. I was on the road coming to Crestone, so a little
I understand.
busy.
That's fine. Yeah. Sorry, my dog's barking at me right now. I'm not sure how much you want to talk about this right now, but sorry, I'm gonna have to get her quiet. I'll let somebody else go.
Okay, she'll be back.
Okay.
I know how that is. I've got pets too, but my cat's dead. So anyone else while she's taking care of business there? Yes, Unjung.
So it's really, really wonderful to talk to you, Michael, and everyone today. When I was listening to everyone speaking, there was just so much energy coming through, and I was singing the one pyramid up and one pyramid down, and the sacred geometry, and I was hearing Solomon's seal of Solomon. And just really just feeling just a lot of it's being really activated, and I'm sure many of us just remembering what we were doing in maybe another lifetime, in another dimension, and maybe we are still, I know that we are all working together in one thing or another. So just, although I'm not really, I know that we are going to find out more on a practical level of how we are setting up our priory or commentary, or in what you said earlier about what was that, preceptory? The other term I can't.
Preceptory, commandery, priory.
Okay, so all these details, I'm sure that they are all going to be revealed. But right now, I'm just really feeling grateful, and really feeling that we are going into just really just into a resonance of our higher soul. It's remembrance. It's kind of hard to put into words, but also, yeah, it's just really wonderful. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with you more on the details and how we can make it formal into the order. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Junjun. You know, as I've been talking with Maya and with Bill and Edie about the unfoldment of the priory reality, the realization that came to us all over the last day or so about the unique nature of these priories, of this gathering, of the Sholar energy. To me, that I shared in a letter to Raven a couple of days ago that for these autonomous spiritual communities that represent years or decades of all of your life's work, those have their own life, their own autonomy, their own sovereignty, and to come into our Templar family, there may be people in those communities, sisterhoods, who are drawn to join the Templar Order as sacred activists, as on what we would call the knight and dame track of, the active work in the world. Sacred activism, is a term that has emerged in recent years, is really about activists grounding in divine communion so they don't burn out in the bleak, grim, heartbreaking circumstances that so many of them face, so that activists, can continue to come from a healing and the restoration of their own spiritual practice. And then there's the contemplatives, to ask the contemplatives who are about immersing in that grace, who are about doing simply the spiritual work, the light work, or even, for the ministerial work of Magdalene priestesses, of celebratory, rites of passage in life, and the beautiful work of a priest or priestess in uplifting and sustaining the spiritual lives of us all. That is the contemplatives, and sacred activism asks them to come down and help the activists, right? So it had these two pillars, if you will, of sacred activism as we understand it. So these priories, as they're unfolding, many of us within these priories will want to just stay in the contemplative ministerial. Some will want to come down to the 3D sacred activists, and some will just naturally go back and forth, are called to both. Allison was sharing with me that her experience in lineage and work naturally calls her to both. And this is the second rider, on the Templar horse, that hidden higher work rider. And, my path seems to have, necessitated that I be in touch with both, and some of you may as well. So this will be part of the unfolding, and we can just see what feels right.
Thank you. I also feel that my work will be bridging both the light work and the sacred activism as well. Yeah. And it's just, I'm originally from South Korea, and I moved to the States 25 years ago. And I mean, having had this Eastern genealogy, but living in the States, and also traveling to many countries. I think I've been maybe to 50 countries, especially the sacred sites and doing the work with the land. And so I'm more having a global planetary work. So although I'm going to be based, I'm very excited. I'm really excited about moving to Kauai and holding the base there. And we'll be still doing wherever we are. I know that we're going to be connecting from that global point of view and really raise the frequencies of this world. So I'm just really, really excited. And however we are guided, I know that we are just following our heart. And on that full moon night, the super full moon night, I dreamt that I felt it was in Kauai, and there was this structure. I perceived it as a hotel, but it was half of the building was gone, and it was all kind of transparent, and the water was just this absolutely gorgeous blue waves of water coming in to this building. But I was not really scared. It was like whatever we built to block this flow of the divine consciousness is a sort of it's getting dismantled. So this water is coming in, and there was one man who is riding on a Buddha head. It was in that dream, I perceived that this man was excavating in the ocean. He found this huge Buddha statue, and he was somehow riding this Buddha head and bringing it out to the building. And he was taking an octopus out of one Buddha's eyes. It was just a very kind of surreal dream, but I know that there is a meaning to it, and something is being revealed, and this consciousness of Buddha, I mean, in the Eastern world, this Buddha probably equals Christ consciousness, and this consciousness is brought to the world. And whatever that was hidden, I don't know what the octopus means, but so whatever the dark stuff is coming out through the eye of Buddha, and we are now receiving this beautiful water with these waves, which is absolutely gorgeous color. And I remember the water, the waves were so sparkly with the light. And so that was the dream that I had that night. So a lot of it happening.
Yeah.
Wow, Yunjung. Incredible. I really consider Eunjung a true visionary. She's had so many beautiful experiences. And as she said, she's traveled through over 50 countries and really done some deep work. Not fancy out there da-da-da work, but she's really, really brought it internally, much like, Allison does. It's bringing it in and really focusing out into the world. It's very seriously and truly accomplished as far as I'm concerned. And
Thank you.
let's see, I believe, Kat, are you back, sweetie? You want to talk now?
Somebody said in the chat that maybe my dog was a Templar last night.
Well, that was a Templar symbol, right? They had their hounds. It was always a big huge hound at the foot of Templar Knights and a lot of the old.
There you go.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they meant it in jest or not, but it could be kind of true. Anyways, yeah, Michael, I just to kind of go back to sort of what Bart was saying, it's just hearing you speak. I feel so blessed. In the past 6 weeks, I've met 3 incredible men that are totally awake. Like you and Bart and Bill, they just blow me away. Like, wow, you guys. Like, now you're all in one place, kind of, sort of. But yeah, it's just, it's like I guess because of I've known about my Templar, or felt drawn to Templars, Cathars, that whole story for, many years, but only now with the convergence of your order and how you described the white path coming into your order, do I finally understand my connection to Templar, finally. And so it's like I've always known in my heart, I feel like a man in a woman's body. I have my whole life. And I've always sort of felt I've hold that chivalric code in my heart, and I always knew how men should treat women and how men should cherish women. So, and I don't see it. I haven't seen a lot of it. And so I feel like you guys really represent, you sort of proven that I'm not wrong, that I was right to be holding that vision. That it is true. So anyways, thank you for, well, first, Maya, thank you for that video, because just the way because I've read so many bits and pieces of all your stuff. Whenever you do an overview like that, it really helps me start to see the big picture and how we can all actually move this forward, and move it forward in a way that somebody could stumble across that video and not know anything about your stuff and just get it.
Well, thank you. And it helps me too, because I've got all this stuff, and when I do it for myself, it's like, oh, okay, now I see the flow. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's the flow that really sort of brings us back to what are we actually really about.
Yeah.
And then for Michael to talk about the white stone being that path of grace brought into the restored order. Like, congratulations on that, what you have achieved, Michael. I had no idea. It was something, it sounds like 2 of you did all this work, or, maybe with a little bit of help, but it's amazing.
Well, yeah, it's, thanks, Kat. The core, back in the day, there were the 9 founding knights, right? The poor knights of Christ of the Temple of Solomon, as they were called. And a lot of the restoration work was done by, a small core of really dedicated people. And, Prince Matthew, our Grand Justiciar, which is our legal counsel in the UK, Mario Farquharson, has been an incredible help to us. And I have to mention my dear friend, Robin Davis, our Grand Marshal on the Grand Mastery, who is one of the bravest, most creative souls I've ever met. And with the social media, if you go onto our Templar Facebook page, Sovereign Magistral Order of the Temple of Solomon Facebook page, you'll see there, someone with a wonderfully irreverent, playful, heartfelt, compassionate, fiery sensibility about her that people are really responding to. And she has a way of getting the Templar heart out, through into the world of Facebook memes and hashtags and the rest of it, in a way that people are really loving and responding to. And we have a whole, program ready to roll out on that. And it seems like everything has been, been gradually brought that, oh, now we're at launch point, go. No, wait. Oh, now we are. No, wait. Spirit keeps going, not yet, not yet. Now is feeling like, yeah, this time, being with all of you and this white stone infusion, can really start to roll. And I look forward to it at some point, perhaps not all together. It might overwhelm him, but for you to meet Prince Matthew, to maybe bring him in on a Sholar gathering sometime. Yeah, he's He's quite an amazing fellow. Right now, he's been the gleeful warrior in the last couple of weeks because, you know, in his background, there's not only, you know, the deep spiritual work he did starting as a young man. I mean, he was I want to say it right, he was the high priest of a Druid group when he was like 22 or 23. Is now an Egyptologist, PhD archaeologist, decorated national security veteran, and yeah, he's quite an amazing fellow, and we've balanced each other out. There've been a lot of times when one of the things, I'll share this. Why not? You know, because his integrity is so high, because his standards are so high. When I have felt the need to bring in, say, okay, we've got this structure, this red path structure. I've got an opportunity here. I've got a major spiritual stream that wants to come in. I will do my own imperfect draft of it and place it in front of him. And his own standards are such that he'll look at it and go, oh, you wanted me to do, oh, no, we have to fix that. No, then nothing, we need to ground that. That needs Templar history. And then, you know, then he goes into his incredibly productive mode, and out comes a masterpiece dissertation a week later. So he's, the contribution of this man, his courage, his dedication, I cannot really describe it to you. So I do want to just pay tribute to him here to you all. So maybe that's a little bit of a tangent, Kat, but...
No, I don't know if it is actually, because, and I don't know if today's, we might not want to talk about this at length, but at some point I would actually like to talk to you about the Fire of Truth University. And what's... Yeah,
we can go into that. You know, just to touch on it briefly, it is now it's an official IGO, intergovernmental organization, a UN level organization with charter members including the Templar Order, the Sovereign Court of International Justice, the Ancient Catholic Church, and the university itself. As the founding members of the World Coalition of Refugee Rights. This has been our major human rights focus over the last 8 months, which recently hit a major bump in the road, which was a huge blessing in disguise. That's a whole story to share with you another time. And it is a licensed university through the Ministry of Education of the Republic of Egypt. It is currently primarily in launch phase. The programs are well developed. The focus is well developed. Our ability to interact at the UN level to coordinate within this legal structure relief missions that's all in operation. So like the Templar Order itself, in a way, it's, you know, a red path restoration that now for a geopolitically oriented, human rights focused, parallel intergovernmental organization to the UN. The UN itself is an intergovernmental organization, one which, of course, is got cronyism, corruption, elite sabotage of humanitarian missions in many areas. These are, you know, everybody knows this about the UN, and there are many beautiful souls doing their best to accomplish activism and humanitarian help through our one global forum that we've got, right? So the IGO of Ignita Veritas University was created to be a parallel organization with its own autonomy, some agility, right? Aligned with UN relationships, in some cases drawing down UN funding, but not enmeshed in the potential UN quagmire. So there's a lot more to talk about, and we can, you know, at some other point. That's just to give a picture of what Ignita Veritas, Fire of Truth, is about.
Okay, because I think as you were speaking, I was realizing that where my sort of interests have led me in sort of that. I'm not autistic, but I get into that mode like you're talking about Prince Mac, like full on production mode.
Yeah.
These things come out of it, and I'm just feeling like for me, I need both the white path and the red path. I get too ungrounded if I'm living up there all the time.
Yeah.
So for me, just using the metaphors that were, or I guess not just metaphors, it's the truth. But for me, it's infusing that red path of education and science with the white, which is hence my interest in that. So if you want to maybe book another time to talk about it more in depth, that'd be great.
Yeah, the actual Templar wing, the strongest Templar element within the IGO is the Pontifical Academy of Sacred Sciences, which is actually headed up by our Templar Grand Chaplain and Grand Preceptor, Ivor Francis and Diane Cantwell. And that is where we hope to, we intend to gather together these studies of sacred sciences, of sacred healing, in a way that, provides support and structure and longevity, so that we can pass things on.
Yeah, and I mean, it might not even need to be said, it's so obvious, but I can see the sacred work of my stuff.
Yeah, very much.
And Bill.
And yeah, thank you. I was about to say, when I think
mine is hers.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Well, both of you then.
Could you say that again, Kat? Just that last few sentences, but I didn't. That sounded.
I said that it might be so obvious that I don't even have to say it, but I see your work, that your body of work becoming part of that university sacred sciences arm.
Oh, okay.
Well, that is very much my hope, that whether it's within that particular structure or within what we might call the Templar library, virtual library, physical libraries in various places, to so that these are resources down the centuries, to preserve all of this.
Both Kailasa and I both had the within 2 weeks of each other had that instinct to call Maya about a year and a half ago and say, what's going to happen when you're gone? Like, basically, like, how are we going to conserve and carry your work forward? We know it's important for the next millennium, literally for the next 1,000 years, Maya's work is relevant. So how do we bring it to the world in a way that it's accessible? So it's just really cool for you to hear you say that as well.
I'm so grateful for these ladies, all of the Sholar. I'll say it again just briefly for your benefit, Michael, but as I've said it to them before, I never dreamed that I would have the kind of support that I have from these ladies and gents. Of course, Bill's been in my life forever, and I've always had support from him. And Bart, many years. But just to bring you all together like this, I didn't do it. It just did itself. And I just feel so grateful to have that, because it does make me feel, I call all I do my experience. I can't prove any of it even to myself. Maybe it's an alternate reality. I don't know. But I look at the fact that I've always been called to do it. I've been doing it since I was 16 years old with never a thought of quitting, ever. And I've been somehow, the universe has supported me to keep me going. And I think, well, that has to have some merit. So I guess it serves a purpose. You don't have to get too intellectual about where's this coming from. Just say, here it is. And these wonderful people stepped up in Kat and Kailasa and Valerie, to help this along, and Samantha as well. She's not here right now. But, I'm just very grateful. And it does make me feel like, well, it has some merit, I don't have any children, and you want to leave something behind. Maybe it's an egoic thing, but I think it's more than that. It's that red road, and I have that in me too. And so I feel now I am going to be leaving something behind for whatever it's intended,
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that brings up for me the, the physical locations, a virtual library and heritage, as well as the physical centers that are in the process of being established. The centers that are clear to us, right? There's Kauai, Crestone. We are creating a media hub in Los Angeles of our Templar community there. I've been based recently in northern Wisconsin at a Franciscan community called the Christine Center. My family has beautiful land in southwestern Wisconsin, in the Rush Creek Valley near the Mississippi, which Bill has shared with me sits on a powerful grid line, a whole system.
Templar grid.
A Templar grid that turns out my mother was, as usual, very sharply, intuitively guided to choose that land when I was 7 years old, where we spent many summers. And I hope to create a Templar sanctuary there. There are some issues, family issues, and we'll see what will happen. The Christine Center is a sacred activism training center that has been in operation for 35 years. Andrew Harvey, who to me is sort of the leading apostle of sacred activism in the world today, will be giving a seminar there between Christmas and New Year's at the Christine Center, coming up shortly on Mother Mary. So the Christine Center is, when it comes time to gather us all, when we want to go from these virtual family reunions to, actual face-to-face celebrations and sharings, that's one place that's already available to us and that we will be holding gatherings at. Crestone is emerging. Well, it's not emerging. Crestone's been here for millenniums, but it feels like Thoth is very much, well, I'm only beginning to experience what, the reality and guidance that have flowed through Maya for many years from Thoth. I will share one thing. We've been looking at property here in Crestone with some of our other Templars here, and there's a Carmelite monastery that might be on the market, and beautiful center there. And so in the middle of the night, I was in the middle of some dream about Crestone land, and all I remember is that at one point I'm in some building in Crestone in this dream, looking at it and going, well, this would be a nice place to live. And in comes this really clear message: that's Thoth's house. Right? It's like, yeah, you'll live there, buddy, but it's Thoth's house, right? And at the same time, I got this shooting pain in my thigh as I'm lying in bed, which is a completely new sensation to me, which I think is just a hello from Thoth, welcome to Crestone sort of thing, that here in the high energy, it's going, hello. That was just like, yeah, it really is me. I mean, that's how I'm reading it. Anyway, that there is, a center on the ground that will manifest here. And, there are grant sources and funding partners that we're working with in Europe, in the Middle East, in California. We are very much at a stage of critical need for funding. We have done this largely on wing and a prayer and some generous contributions. Millions of dollars have actually already been invested, primarily by Prince Matthew out of his personal fortune from his years of work in financial services. He chose to leave that life and dedicate himself to the restoration of the order. And so, an enormous amount of resources, both of his own and from organizations he was affiliated with, helped put the essential structure in place. And now we are, we're calling in abundance and resources. So that's, we're trusting. We're going one step forward at a time. And the fact that we're sitting here having this talk with you says, it's being guided. We're trusting.
Absolutely. That's kind of where I am right now too.
Yeah.
Yes, Bart.
Yeah, just was wondering, Michael, whether you know about the opening of the thigh that Bill may have talked to you about. The Grail King had a wound in the thigh, and I was wondering. Okay.
Carl Jung calls that the Amfortas wound, right?
Yes, the Amfortas wound. Might that have anything to do with your dream?
I hadn't thought of that. What an interesting idea.
I thought of it. I thought of it the minute he said it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, those Amfortas wounds really hurt. They're not that bad. No, I make light of it, but it was clearly a, what would you call it? A somatic message.
Yeah.
And it got my attention.
Yeah. Those things tend
that was the
to.
idea.
Yeah.
It also reminds me, I don't know if are you familiar with Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's work?
Glancingly, yeah, of the morphogenetic fields and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At a certain public lecture, I believe it was in the States, he was attacked by a Japanese guy, and the guy wanted to kill him, but he tripped over, let's say, some stuff that was on the ground, and he stuck a knife in his thigh.
In his own thigh or Sheldrake's?
No, Sheldrake's.
Oh, wow.
He recovered from it pretty well, but that was also something that I went to Bill about, and he said, well, that's a typical Amfortas wound, but I believe if you check on Rupert Sheldrake's work, I think it's only highly, highly important and very important for the work that we are doing, actually, but from a purely scientific point of view. He's actually proving that there is a connection, the information fields, because morphic fields are information fields that are not dependent on time or space. And we're tapping into that. When we're going into the Metatronic fields, by doing the Rochelle work that Bill has been teaching me and that Maya and Toth have been talking about, I'm just working with it in my own way. But I feel there is a big connection with what Rupert Sheldrake is actually proving on a scientific level. So it would be very interesting, I think, for you as well to check it out and see, well, it's just someone else that had a physical Amfortas wound, whereas you had it, luckily, in the dream.
Yeah, that would be, I think Prince Matthew particularly, and also Ivor, our Grand Chaplain, would be fascinated by Sheldrake's work. The sacred sciences, the hard metaphysical facts backing up our mystical heritage. We're very careful about bringing that forward and joyfully, saying, this is unignorable. You got to deal with this. This can't be dismissed as mysticism.
Right.
Absolutely.
I have some inside information that might be of interest as far as proving some of this stuff, which is a colleague of mine that actually invented solar liquid power. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's actually a paint. It's a nanotech. It's a paint you put on it. It actually is very highly efficient. It'll make solar panels obsolete when it comes in. But anyway, wow. He's in funding right now for the startup. But he actually is going to be purchasing the manufacturing facility, and it just happens to have a frequency room in it, which was built by the Department of Defense. As far as we know, it's the only one on the surface of the planet. There might be others, like in the interior, like they might have built some of them below the surface, but there's no precedent for working with this frequency room. So we're actually going to be able to have access, through me, we're going to have access to be able to do research in this frequency room.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually had a couple of meetings with Arthur Franklin in Los Angeles, who has been doing frequency healing work. It wouldn't surprise me if he might be aware of this, but again, that as Donna brought out, that's a major aspect of our work. So that would be great to learn more of.
Whoa.
I have a postscript to the thigh comment. When we first, Carol Mann and I first began arc work, well under Thoth, the arc, the being created, was across the thighs. There's an axis, a dynamic there, and I think that open thigh wound is an infusion or a streaming into an arc reality in the context that we're working here. That for Michael, with that action line in the dream vision, that he may be creating, or part of the creation of a new arc specific to what he was talking about. So that's my comment.
That's very intriguing. I think I would like to take that to Thoth.
Yeah.
See what comes of it. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything that hasn't shared up to this point that they would just like to, you don't have to, but now's your chance before we go into the last meditation part of this. Yes, Tricia.
I don't really have anything to say. I just wanted to send aloha from the big island of Hawaii to Michael.
Thank you, Tricia. I really look forward to coming to Hawaii soon. Any excuse. Yeah.
All right. Well, what I think we'll do at this point then, if no one has anything else they'd like to say, go to the last little bit for the recording's sake, and that is Edie and Bill told me about this beautiful Templar song. It's the sort of, okay, Michael did, but Michael told Bill, and somebody told me. Anyway, it's a beautiful, beautiful song. It's like, I guess, sort of an official Templar song, and it's so beautiful. What I did was I took the recording and I made my own little video of it. It's only a little over 4 minutes long. So I would like to play that, and after that, we will conclude the recording, but then we will say our real goodbyes afterward. But I will conclude the recording.
And just to share the words, the words of the song, non nobis domine, sed nomine tuo da gloriam, which many of you may know, the Templar motto, not unto us, O Lord, but to thy name be the glory. So
I cry every time I hear it.